Tonight, the White House touts a concession from Iran that was in the Obama deal.
The Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country,
while the U.S. allows Tehran to sell oil in dollars for the first time in decades. Plus,
well, I personally think the Electoral College is an abomination.
Hillary Clinton reignites a debate over how America votes. And Kamala Harris does too.
I think we need to look at that too.
And Donald Trump blames vandals for his reflecting pool chaos and threatens to throw them into the deep end.
They did something to create the algae.
Live at the table, Charles Blow, Jason Rantz, Jemele Hill, Caroline Downey, and Anna Navarro. Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening, I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Tonight, the White House is touting a, quote, big deal in its talks with Iran, but the breakthrough is something that was in Barack Obama's nuclear deal that President Trump tore up.
This is probably what we're most excited about as Americans. The Iranians have agreed to invite IAEA inspectors back into their country. That is a major milestone for the American people and the first step in permanently denuclearizing or permanently ending a nuclear weapons program in Iran.
For decades, inspectors will have access to Iran's entire nuclear supply chain, from the uranium mines and mills where they get raw materials to the centrifuge production facilities where they make machines to enrich it. And under the terms of the deal, inspectors will have the permanent ability to inspect any suspicious sites in Iran.
Back in 2015, Republicans criticized President Obama's nuclear deal, claiming it gave billions in cash to Iran. It actually was their own assets that were unfrozen. But Trump today said that he has lifted sanctions on the sale of Iranian oil for the next 60 days. And for the first time in decades, the United States is allowing oil to be imported into this country. A reminder, just last month, the State Department announced new sanctions on Iran's trading oil with China, and it argued that Iran's oil trade was the primary revenue stream for Iranians to fund terrorism and regional destabilization. So I don't know. I mean, I guess if the benchmark is how do we fix things that we broke, maybe this is a big deal, but not only was the IAEA inspections part of the Iran nuclear deal, but IAEA inspectors were in Iran up until last summer, right at the point at which Operation Midnight Hammer happened. And then it was after that that they left the country because the Iranian government shut down their access to nuclear sites as a result of the U.S. attacks on Iran. So why is this some kind of breakthrough that J.D. Vance is touting?
I don't know if it's a breakthrough. I think the reason why it's being framed that way is obviously political. They're looking for a win in front of the American public who've been not convinced that this was the right thing to do. I think some of this is just simply premature, both coming from J.D. Vance, but also critics of this. We don't actually know what the plan is. We don't know what this deal is going to look like in 60 days. I hope that it's something different than what we've had in the past. I am amongst the conservative critics of the MOU. But I'm also understanding that that's all it is. It's a memo of understanding, this notion that we're laying the foundation. Fair enough. The immediate goal was to end the military strikes and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That was a political goal to help bring down the cost of gasoline in this country going into the midterm. So I'm looking forward to what this is going to look like. I don't necessarily trust Iran. I don't think any of us should trust Iran. But we are doing things from a slightly different position than when President Obama was in power. They obviously don't have quite the same military threat as they did before. So we're going into it with a little bit more strength than we have in the past.
Yeah, but we went into it in peacetime. We went into it not having at least 13 American soldiers have to be killed to get it. We went into it not having 168 innocent Iranian schoolgirls killed to get it. We went into it not having our stockpiles depleted in order to get it. We went into it not having billions of dollars of American taxpayer money spent to get it. So I'm trying to figure out where the win is. Even if you say we don't know what it's going to be in 60 days, then why are the sanctions lifted today?
Because they're doing this in good faith to get to a point
Good faith with the Iranians?
Well, we're acting in good faith. I don't think they're going to act in good faith. But this idea
Then why would
that,
you do it?
But this idea that there have been no accomplishments whatsoever here is to completely dismiss the work that the military has done in destroying their Air Force, destroying their Navy capabilities. That does matter. That changes the power dynamics in that region.
But hold on.
But what has
can I
really
just ask a
changed
question?
is the Iranians are stronger.
I don't really
They're definitely
understand.
not strong.
I don't understand
Absolutely
the
they
logic.
are.
I don't
That's
understand
ridiculous.
the logic here.
Absolutely they are.
If we are in a stronger position, why are we negotiating with them on things that they have already conceded in a past era in which there was no military threat on the table?
Two reasons. I think number one, this administration believes that they're able to get to a deal that changes the dynamics with Iran in a place where we can actually trust them. Now, I'm highly skeptical of that. But number two, and I think the underlying issue.
You acknowledge that they are not giving anything that they have not given before, correct?
Well, I'm saying they're giving something that they haven't given before.
Which is what?
No, I'm saying they're not.
Okay.
But the context is different in which
Yeah,
they're
this
no
is a good
longer the
point.
same threat as they were before.
The
Okay,
MO,
but
that's all
the MOU,
that
I mean,
the MOU is
maybe
a-
they're not. Maybe they're no longer the same threat. Maybe yes, we've bombed them significantly, but that would then follow that we would get way more out of them, not way less. So why are we getting the same amount that Obama got, and he didn't have to bomb them for it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the conservative critique of the MOU. Basically, Iran has reneged on every single treaty it's ever signed, by the way. We're seeing now that Hezbollah is still striking Israel from Lebanon because they weren't included in the negotiations. This could dismantle tomorrow, which would give the United States a convenient out from some of these commitments. Like you said, a lot of conservatives are not comfortable with these concessions. But to draw this blanket comparison between this and the Obama deal, it's just not true because, to Jason's point, the war context, this is a post-war framework. We didn't just negotiate a limited nuclear deal. What we did is all of the...
We didn't negotiate a nuclear deal at all.
Well, no, that's going to come down the road.
Well,
but the JCPOA, it literally put out a commission, facilities with a sunset clause, because as you recall, the JCPOA, 10 to 15 years, that was going to expire.
Okay,
Trump demolished those
that's
facilities.
15 years.
So now that's off the
That's
table.
15 years compared to 0 nuclear commitments, just to be clear. That's the actual comparison. But let me just play. This is actually interesting.
Watching these two
K-file
guys try to turn themselves into
Well,
pretzels to justify
to be fair,
this,
I mean, neither of
it's
them
better than
support
watching
the
the World Cup.
MOU. To be
Well,
fair,
no, we
neither
don't.
of
We're
them
just
support
trying
the
to provide
MOU,
the
so that's
context.
probably why
You
this
know,
is
Sounds
and he's
ridiculous.
right. The missile stockpiles gone.
But the missile
Obama refused
stockpiles
to
are not
negotiate. They are mostly gone.
But also,
Billion
okay,
dollars.
I do want to play this because I think we should just hear it from Donald Trump's own mouth, what he thinks a good deal actually looks like. Listen.
We've made them a strong country from really a very weak country.
We took the sanctions off. We got nothing for that.
We've rewarded the world's leading state sponsor of terror with $150 billion, and we received absolutely nothing in return. It's a one-sided transaction where we're giving back $150 billion to a terrorist state, really the #1 terrorist state. I would have made a deal not from desperation. I would have doubled and tripled up the sanctions, and I would have made a much better deal.
Okay, so just to lay it out,
Now what's the
the
context?
missiles are not gone. In fact, Trump said that they are entitled to missiles for self-defense. He's looking at a deal that contemplates, first of all, his statement of the facts here are not accurate, but even if they were, his deal would contemplate twice as much in sanctions relief money that goes to Iran. Sanctions relief is happening right now. Iran has done nothing except what is required under current international law, which is to open up the Strait of Hormuz. So even by Trump's own standards, I don't see how this deal measures up.
Well, not only that, it's just they're not going to be able, the conservative position is never going to be able to outrun the reason the deal was torn up in the first place. It's because of an inherent jealousy of Barack Obama. Says the president is insecure, and he did something that actually moved all of this backwards because of his own level of insecurity and hatred of the president that was before him. And that is, we are never going to be able to, we're never going to be able to get up under that.
Listen,
But I think a lot of the criticism right now against Donald Trump is driven by the fact that the critics hate him as well. And so they're unwilling to look at this, we end up seeing is his face.
There's plenty of Republicans who have been very supportive of Trump, including people like, for example, Senator Roger Wicker, who is half dead. and he woke up from his coma to say this deal sucks. I mean, have you seen him lately? People like Lindsey Graham.
All right.
There is
I cannot
nothing
speak to that, just to be clear.
that Donald Trump does that Lindsey Graham doesn't like, and he's been critical of this. People in the in the right-wing blogosphere who have been very supportive, and I admire that. I admire that they are standing on principle and calling a spade a spade. I mean, not only are we giving them exponentially more money, not only are we lifting sanctions, but now Iran knows that they can close the Strait of Hormuz and bring us.
Iran also knows that we can strike them militarily, which the Obama administration was unwilling to do.
We did strike them militarily.
And we could continue.
You know what they know? They know that they can survive it.
Correct.
Look at you. So you're arguing that the economic situation right now in Iran is somehow better than it was.
I'm saying that they can survive it.
But that is fighting a different war.
That is a
That's the
piece
thing.
of this
We're fighting a different war than they are. They know that the war here is unpopular. They know here the war is unpopular. They know that people here are looking at gas prices.
That's
they
true.
are willing.
And the elections are 4 months away.
And the elections are 4 months. They know all of these things. Those are huge leverage points for them. So they don't care about their own personal suffering.
I was just going to say, I think it's worth pointing out, all of that understood, that all of these proxies of Iran, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran, or Israel and the United States have greatly degraded them. And they were attacking U.S. bases, U.S. soldiers, killing them. We were at war with Iran for a very long time.
When Donald Trump reinstated the sanctions on Iran, he said out of his own mouth he was doing so to deny them the capacity to, what does he say? Deny them the funds they need to advance its bloody agenda, which is basically to fund the very same groups that you just described. Now we're allowing them, we're lifting those sanctions that he reinstated onto them. What do you think that money is going to go? What do you think it's going to do?
I think you're correct that if it does end up in their coffers, in this very limited point, I think if it does go to their coffers, that, yeah, it's going to fund the world's biggest sponsor of terror, as it has historically. I don't think this MOU is going to stick. I don't think it is.
So then it's...
So then what's going to happen?
The point is to get to the 60 days and actually get something done. You bring up an important point in all of this.
Deal.
Wait, hold on. You guys are not, just to be clear, you guys are not making the same point. She's saying the MOU is not going to last. You're saying that it will, and that
No,
we'll
I'm
get
not
to a
saying
deal?
that.
Okay.
No, I'm saying the point of getting the MOU on the table is so you can start these negotiations. It's really what's going to happen in 60 days. And I think we should judge that harshly
And then
if it's a bad deal.
So Iran gives up leg.
Well, then that's what we figure out. I mean, that's part of the negotiation.
I'm saying what happens, let's wish cast into the future. What would happen? What is the scenario if we don't get a deal in 60 days?
I could
Are
do
we just going back and bombing?
My recommendation,
we might go back
the
to
only
bombing.
way to do this is to crush them.
Okay.
What does crush them mean? What does that mean? He already
threatened
to wipe out their civilization. So what does crush them mean?
No, like if he was withholding military force. Like,
Okay.
frankly,
We're always
if you
withholding
if
because
you
we don't want to destroy the world.
this,
So what are you
I'm just
saying?
I'm not saying he will, and I'm not saying.
What does crush them mean to you?
Well, let her respond.
You respond. You're not the referee here.
One at a time.
I want to know what you mean by that.
Iran was dangling the one piece of leverage it had, which was the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
Because we were letting them do that.
Okay.
What do you think it means if we don't let them do that?
So I'm asking you, what do you mean when you said we should crush them? I want to know what that means to you.
I'm saying technically it means escalate military force.
And to what?
Yeah,
to
maximum
what end?
pressure.
To what end? Because we've already destroyed their military. So what end?
Let me just ask
if you think 2 months from an election,
I don't think this is hypothetical.
There's going to be the appetite.
I don't think there is an appetite.
Guys, hold on a second. This is not really a super hypothetical situation. The military said at the beginning of this conflict they had a list of targets. It was, hundreds of targets. They got to nearly the end of that list, and then they stopped bombing. The Strait of Hormuz, the options are we do what we did, which is the blockade, and maybe try to escort ships, or we try to put boots on the ground, take Cargill to secure it. Is that what you're saying we would do?
I'm not recommending that. I'm saying that is the only way to actually end this. Because the deal
will do what? So you recommending
put boots on the ground?
No, I'm saying
to
there's
Cargill
really no in between. There really
I need you to get your story straight because you first just said you were recommending it, and now you're saying you're not. So which one is it?
No, I'm saying if you want to finalize this and basically make it so that
let it come on out your mouth. What?
If you don't want to broker with a terrorist regime anymore, then yes, you have to apply more military
So you are
force.
suggesting
I
it.
just think.
I'm saying that is, if that's what their
Hold on.
calculus is.
Listen, I just think that it's not helpful to say we got to do more. I mean, what does that really look like? Is it what Trump said, which is taking out their bridges, their infrastructure, their desalination plants, which would be
Which are war
Well, so
crimes.
or
yes.
is it putting boots on the ground? Because which of these bad scenarios do you want?
Listen, I'm telling you that I'm not sure what their thinking is internally. But in the beginning, at the outset of this, they were floating all these options. And I agree, it wasn't a clear
The American people
articulation
don't want
of
any options. The American
Exactly.
people want to
That's-
get the
that's
hell
where it's
out of
the
there
loss.
to the point that even if we
I
know it's a
agree.
bad
Yes.
deal,
Yeah.
we are happier with a bad deal than we are
And they're-
continuing to be in there
and they're
bombing and
also
putting
asking
people
us to-
at risk.
is improved.
But let's call it a bad
The
deal.
context is not what you got in it for. I mean, they're also asking
context
us.
is much more advantageous to us.
There are some improvements. You're right. There's some improvements. We've degraded their military.
Yes.
The negative, where I said they are stronger, is that now we have enshrined them as the gatekeepers of the Straits of Hormuz. They know that they can take it. They know that it imposes a maximum pressure on us and the rest of the world whenever they want to do it. And that was never the case
Before
until
midterm
now, until they
does.
proved it during this war.
All right, let's leave it there. Next.